Ja, dus welkom iedereen op deze sessie en op de JoomlaDagen Nederland. Eh, Mijn naam is Marc en ik ben Franstalig. Ik ben Franstalig uit België. En ik zeg gewoon enkele woorden in het Nederlands, want het is leuk. En ook zo zijn alle mensen die geen Nederlands spreken nu aan het denken, amai, ik dacht een sessie in het Engels was. Maar de sessie op zich gaat wel in het Engels zijn. Ik bedank hier alle organisatoren en ook alle deelnemers van deze JoomlaDagen Nederland. Het is altijd superleuk om hier te zijn als deelnemer of als spreker. En ook een woordje misschien aan de sponsors van het evenement, want zonder sponsors is er niks. En ook wil ik jullie uitnodigen, als jullie willen, naar de JoomlaDagen in Frankrijk. Dat vindt plaats op, in het Engels misschien, op vrijdag 16 en zaterdag 17 juni, dus binnen 1 maand of zo, in Metz. Dus dat is niet zo ver, een beetje verder dan Luxemburg. Voilà, dus jullie zijn allemaal welkom op de JoomlaDagen Frankrijk. De sessies zijn meestal in het Frans, misschien enkele sessies in het Engels, een beetje zoals hier. Voilà, dat was het voor mijn inleiding in het Nederlands. And now I switch to English because all the people who don't speak Dutch are wondering what I was doing there. So welcome everybody, and in this session, actually, I will speak about the Joomla API because I was so excited when Joomla 4 was released to see that there was an API that we could create article, update article, delete articles from outside Joomla. This is what an API is, that you can do things from distance, not manually in the backend, but programmatically. And let me just check whether I'm recording yet. But the thing is, I'm not a developer, so I'm not an expert in API. So I had already seen presentations about APIs in general or the Joomla API, but it was too technical for me. People playing with Postman, but people who already know how it all works. But I was missing the first step, like give me a 15-line example of code so that I can start with something and then I can build on that. I'm able to do that, but I'm not able to start from scratch. Or yes, I could, but it would take a whole week and I have other things to do in life. So in this session here, I will be, you will have the long version. If you go to my website or the subdomain slides.woluweb.be, here you have all the session I've given, and I don't know, it's maybe 30, 40, I've not checked, a bit everywhere. And if you go to this session, playing in HTML5, right, so maybe I zoom a bit. Okay, and so the goal of this presentation is to show that we can import Joomla articles and together with the custom fields, because if you know a bit about me, I must be the biggest fan of custom fields, Joomla custom fields in the world. I claim to be that person. So I've written a lot about custom fields. So even when I speak about Joomla APIs, I will mention custom fields. So you can import not only your articles, but also all the custom fields, which is very handy. And so directly from a Google Sheet, so no export a file in some format and then import. No, end users, just type in their things in Google Sheet. We click on a button and everything is imported or synchronized. I discovered everything by myself. But I'm very open to any suggestions. So if you have any better idea about anything in this presentation, please feel free to get back to me. And as I was saying, it all started because I needed the first step. And this step came at the last Joomla days in Germany. JoomlaDagen, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, where Peter Martin, that you all know most probably, he made a session about the Joomla API, but exactly what I needed with simple examples, and he had taken time because even for himself, it took time to discover and to tweak. And so all I've done here, I must thank, well, actually, I'm doing the opposite of movies. In movies, you have to wait for a long time for the conclusion, and then you have the thank word. Here, I will start with the thank word, then I will continue with the end of the story. I will make a demo, and then I will go into the details, so that even if we have to go a bit quickly, if you see the length of this slide, of this page, okay, I give many details. So don't worry if I go a bit quickly on something. You can read that for yourself later. And so it all started with Peter Martin's presentation, where I had these little examples, practical examples. And then coming back to Belgium, I had a chat with Alexandre Élysée, who is a French Joomler from Martinique in the islands there, in the Caribbean. He loves APIs, and he's a coder. So actually, I had plenty of ideas, but no ability to code them. And he was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, your ideas. Okay, let's team up and do something. So I thank him very much also because he has devoted a lot of time, like me, on this topic, and to have a script which works and which is on GitHub for free. So that's it. Here I give all the resources. So Peter Martin's presentation that I was mentioning, and also the link to the slides, and Alexandre's blog. He also made a API collection for Postman. I don't even know how to use that. It does not matter. But if you know what it is, just go and play with it. And the link to the series of script he has made. And now, please, I will stop the presentation for 30 seconds. I ask you to go on this, if you have your computer, on this or after the session, right? Go to this link, GitHub, Alexandre Élysée, J4 API examples, and just click on the star. You know, you can say you like something by clicking on the star at the top right of a GitHub page. So he's not asking for anything, which would be very nice to show him our appreciation of the time he has devoted to this. So thanks in advance. Do it now if you have your computer. So the first thing with the Joomla API, when you want to play with it, is that you have to create a user, or use an existing user, of course. And when you go to a user, manage, and I will take whatever. Okay, Julien. There is a tab Joomla API token, and I am not Julien. I am Marc. So actually, even if I'm a super user, and that's why I wasn't opening my own. Here, when you edit your own account, you see your API key, which is a super long string, which is your password. So of course, never share that password because this password is a super user password. Where is my presentation? Here, yeah. So you just create a new user. I just go quickly on that because it's basic. You give a strong password to the user, of course. You assign it to the user group super user, and you go to the tab where you read the API. You save, but if that user is not you, then of course you have to re-log in as that user, and you see here an API key. So that's a start. Then here we have all the little examples. But before doing that, I will go for the live demo. And I am quite bold or simply confident. I will do this on a live site, on a production site. This is a website that I released a couple of weeks ago for a classical music festival in Belgium. So having okay, plenty of concerts. It's 40 concerts. But I have other websites where I use the script to import and synchronize 2,600 films with all their custom fields. So here for 40 concerts, you could say you could do it by hand in the backend. But actually, every day they have a typo, they add a video, they add a custom field, they whatever. So they have resynchronized maybe 20 times in the last month. And it's so much easier that, okay, they have a global view, they have a Google Sheet. Many people can work in that Google Sheet because they can give rights and everything. So this is the website for the concerts. And how does it work? If I go to the backend, Brian Tiemann mentioned that you can, in Joomla 4, it's very easy to play with all the module in the dashboard. So I'll create a custom HTML. You don't have to do that, but it's handy. You create a custom HTML module here, and I put some links so that even after the concert, in 10 months, when my link to the Google Sheet, I've completely forgotten where it was. It is very far away in my emails and in my history of Google Sheet. I always have the link to the Google Sheet, to the CSV version of the Google Sheet, and to my synchronize button. So let's open that Google Sheet. Okay, there I have all the concerts. Okay, there is the title of each concert. Good. I chose an alias, and the alias I wanted Brussels 1, Brussels 2, because that's how in their catalog, in the paper version, they and then you have all the custom feeds. Like if I go a bit further in the file, okay, there is the tariff or the distribution, namely the who will speak, the link to the ticketing, the YouTube link, the Vimeo link, the Spotify link, and whatever. So any type of custom field. Every time I have a column for each of those custom fields. And let's take, for example, one of the concerts. If I take which one? The last one, maybe, then it's easier. The 25. Wait, let me just check the number of the last concerts. Maybe 15. Okay. 15. Oh yes, unpublished. Wait. Which article is it?
First one.
Oh yeah, because it's unpublished. Ah, I forgot. Of course, it's unpublished because I will play with that one because I don't want to interfere with the real program on the website. So you see, actually, I have a concert and I have a tab with all the custom fields for concerts. Okay, all the fields that you saw in the Google Sheet, right? For the time of the concert, a subtitle, start, day and time, end, date and time, in which room it is, thanks to regular apps, articles field, which allows to make links between articles, very handy. The tariff, the link to the ticketing, the program, the distribution, all that will come directly from the Google Sheet. So now if I go here and I edit my Google Sheet and I will say live test, and I could fill in a couple of custom field, I don't know, some intro text, and what do I have? The tariff. Where's my tariff? Free for Joomlers. Okay. Actually, here, if I go back to the backend, I have the script which I've customized with the link to my website, and we will see that later. And in my dashboard, I've made a nice button, and this button there is nothing that I installed in Joomla. It's just a link to that script, which is external. It could even be on another server, nothing to do with the website itself, because we're using the API. So now if I click on synchronize, it will call the script and go through it. So we just wait a few seconds. Okay, and I have some feedback here, but originally it was just a blank page because you don't need to display anything. But then when I chat with Alexandre, I said, yeah, but it would be nice to have some feedback. Otherwise, people will always have a doubt. Did it work or not? Or sometimes it did work for all the rows except one, because there was a mistake in one of the values of the custom fields. And then the line is skipped, for example. Just like in Joomla, you cannot save if you forgot to select some stuff to put a title, you cannot save. So here it's the same, it's the API, but it cannot be more than what you do in the interface. So we have this feedback. You can turn it off. Like if you import 2,000 rows, you will turn it off so that it's faster. It does not bother just displaying stuff. And so, but I can already see in this little feedback that I get that I see live test. So it has worked. And now if I go to my articles and I edit this, indeed, I see the title, live test, and hopefully on the concert thing. Okay, free for Joomlers. And the same for all the fields, right? Here, I just wanted to make a quick example. So, no, it's here. Yeah, sorry, I was too quick to show. Yeah. Thank you for. Just because okay, session's finished. No, so the thank word is already done. The demo is already done. So for all the rest, I could send you to the to the slides, right? But we will go through it, not in every detail, but with time, because we started this many months ago. Every month I come up with a new idea, like because at first when we started the script, it's not even that I needed that. It was really pure out interest for Joomla and playing with it. And I said, oh, I have a website to import films where it would be useful. And I was thinking, okay, it's nice. I will use the script. It's not just for fun. I was thinking just for one website and that's it. And actually, now that I have the script for 100% of my new projects, I use it because even here where, okay, it's quite obvious when you have to import 2,600 films with all their custom fields that you don't want to do that by hand. But even for this, for 40 concerts, you could say, I don't bother. But it's so easy to set up. And it's so easy for end users to put all their content and update it, because it's not just a one-time thing. Or for some projects, people have their own internal database, so it's easier for them. Anyway, they are playing with an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet to prepare the input before putting it on the live site. And so you are also sure that there is no mistake, no anything. Okay, so let's go back to this. I will just give one example of those scripts which were given by Peter Martin, so that you have an idea of how it works at the micro level, right? So the Joomla API. Actually, if you use this script, maybe I should unzoom a bit. No, yeah. Okay, it's a bit more than 15 lines because it's nice, it's done, okay, in a verbose way, but this is all the code you need to create an article in Joomla in a separate script, which can be even on some other server than your website, right? You have to give the URL to your website. Maybe I can zoom now a bit more. You have somewhere in the code to give the URL to the website. Okay, a bit technical, /API /version 1 of the API. You have to put the token, so the API key of the user. So this is why if somebody else has access to that script because it's on FTP somewhere, well, anybody who can read the script it becomes a super user, right? So you should be cautious if you give the code of this script to a third party or whatever. In the future, it's not my responsibility, but in the future, there are plans to improve that and to say, okay, not only for super users, but also for other types of users, and having ACL, and so that you could say an API key would allow to read, but not to write to the website, things like that. It's not the case yet. Now it's super user, so it can do anything. You give the data, in this basic example, you give the data like a title, an alias, the category ID, the language, maybe a meta description if you like, a meta key, the keywords, and everything. And then, okay, there is a curl thing. Don't worry, don't need to know what it is, but it's just to call the link and then trigger the creation of the article with the data that we put there. So it all started with this example. Maybe this is a bit tweaked since Peter wrote it, but it all started with this example. And then I was saying, oh yeah, I'll do the same, but instead of one article, I do 3. And I'll add a parameter for this and parameter for that. And at some point, I asked Alexandre, will it be possible to be able to select a CSV file so that, because there is no point in automating importation if you have to type everything in a script, right? So that's how I came with the idea. Oh, if there was a button and you could select a CSV file and it would go through it. And Alexandre told me, but why bother with a CSV file? Just make a Google Sheet, and when you create a Google Sheet, you can publish it on the web, make it public, have a public link. But when you do that, file, publish on the web, there is an option to say not as a regular link to open in the browser and to see the table without the buttons, but you can say as CSV file. So actually, you don't need to export, import, and everything. You only have a link, which is always up to date to the spreadsheet. So this is a little example for creation. And okay, I give all the details. You see, when you launch that script, launching just means opening the URL of the script, right? You have some feedback saying whether it has worked or not and giving the information. And there is the same thing to if you want to update an article, but I don't go in detail, otherwise we will never finish. And there is another one. Yeah, and then to delete and everything. Then next step, because I love custom fields, as I said, the next step was to say, yeah, and now what about custom fields? Suppose a website where you create custom fields. I go through that. The nice thing is that if you wanted to write a SQL prompt to create an article with its custom field. I'm not an expert in SQL. I've never written any SQL of my life, but okay. In 10 minutes, I could probably write a SQL to create an article in Joomla. But if you say with a custom field, ooh, that's tricky, because then it's not just one table. There are links, and the custom fields take the ID of the table articles, and there is also another table. So it involves 3 tables with joins and whatever. I have no clue how to do that. So it would be tricky. Here, how does it work? Do you remember the previous example, the basic example, where we were saying, okay, there is title, intro text, etc. When you use the API, if the custom field's name is alias, right? Is temperature, well, just like you had put title, arrow, blah, blah, you put temperature, arrow, blah, blah, and it takes care of everything behind. So it's very easy just to adapt the script to add custom fields. You don't have to worry how it works in the database. Another advantage, okay, it's simpler than if you had to do it with a SQL thing, to do it with the API. But it has also different advantage. If you said, I can do SQL, I will do it this way. Yes, but then you're not triggering all what Joomla offers. like versioning. You know, in Joomla, when you edit an article, you update an article, you save, you have a versions button so that you can go back and, well, the custom feeds are not included in the versioning at the moment, but that's something else. But okay, you have the versioning, so you know who has edited when, and for the main fields, for all the fields except the custom fields, you can go back to any previous version. Well, if you make a SQL query, you don't have that. It's like directly touching the database and without triggering all those Joomla stuff. So it's also, not only is it easy because to add a custom field here, you just put temperature, but also you have all the things that Joomla offers, or also the validation. Here, if I have a custom field of type link, URL, it's just like in Joomla. If you're in the interface and instead of putting a link in a custom field of type URL, if you type blah blah, you want to save, Joomla won't save. It will throw a message saying it's not the right type of content, because a URL should start with HTTPS / etc. Or for a mail, it should be mail to semicolon. So here it's the same thing, because we are doing it the Joomla way. If the input is crap, does not respect what is expected, then it will, you don't import crap, right? It will be refused. Joomla will just, the script in this case will just skip the line and go to the next one. Yeah, of course, the Joomla API here, I'm speaking more about my script to import from a Google Sheet, but I have a few websites now that I've mentioned. By the way, there is an API, so if you ever want me to do something with that, explaining a bit what an API is, but and for some website we're saying, oh yeah, we would like to expose the articles of category whatever, so that another tool or website can fetch the information. You can also do that, right? To expose a category. That's another basic example. For all the scripts, my script related to Google Sheet, but also all those basic examples that you can also use maybe for some other stuff, you can launch them automatically. And there are different ways to do that. So as I was saying, you can put the script. The script is nothing to install in Joomla. It's not a plugin. You could also, for any of the scripts, make a Joomla version which is installable and uses the Joomla framework. But then you need to be on the Joomla website to play with it. Here, I've more developed the idea of let's have an independent script that could even be on some server which has nothing to do with Joomla, nothing to do with the website in question, whatever. It's completely independent. So you can put the script on your on the concerned website or anywhere else. When you want to trigger it, any script, you just open the URL, either directly, either like I do when I put a little link here, because for users it's easier to remember. Or you could also call this URL in any piece of code if you're a coder, or you could simply set up a cron job calling this URL, either by the classical tool provided by your hosting company, either by some third-party online tool which provide cron tasks, or also by setting up a task scheduler in Joomla. Because I think Brian mentioned the task scheduler. I'm not sure now. When you mentioned this morning all the features, yeah, okay, it's one feature he missed. So I'm happy to mention. If you go to systems in Joomla 4, there's a task scheduler like crazy. You can say there are not many examples pre-installed, but there is one which is useful. For example, like where you can say, I want all the images of this folder to be resized maximum this width or maximum this height. So like I have a folder newsletter. For the newsletter, I never want more than 600 pixels, but it's too difficult to explain to end users, or it's too cumbersome. So I say, don't worry, you upload any size of image. Anyway, by the time they finish writing the newsletter, the task scheduler will have resized everything, maximum 600 pixels. It will display nicely on all emails, even Outlook, which has a bad rendering, whatever. So the task scheduler is a kind of, it is more than that, a kind of cron job within your website. And this means that you can simply automate. Let me show that because I have an example. Yeah, you get a task scheduler. You have something like that. So if you just say within the interface of Joomla, here is the link to my script. I want it to run every 3 hours or every 27 hours or every 2 weeks, whatever. I set this up and I enable. And so it's very handy because if you set up a cron from the host and you want to change something, it's cumbersome. You have to go log in, edit. Here, if you want to disable it for some time, re-enable it, change the access rights, whatever, you can do it. Also, I'll go quickly on that, but you could say, yes, but Marc, here on this website, live, you have showed the URL to the script. So anybody who sees the URL could trigger the script and make my website work to re-import every 5 seconds all my data or play. Okay, they could not do any damage, but they could overload my website by launching the script. So you can also be the only one to run the scripts. And simply by playing with htaccess. So here is an example. I'll go quickly on that, see the thing, but you can, yeah, so this way with htaccess, you can say that when you call the script, there is an HT password. So if you don't know what it is, it's just a little pop-up independent of Joomla. It's from the server directly, a little pop-up asking for a login password. But it means that you cannot bomb the website because as long as you've not entered anything, the website does not have anything to do. But then you will say, yes, but we do that to prevent people out there calling the script. How will my cron task trigger it? Because then I'm also blocking a cron task. And you can say, yes, but I'll put this HT password only for people who don't have these IPs, IP address, namely the local thing and the IP of the server itself, so that if you do a task scheduler, well, it has the same IP because it's a website itself calling itself, so it's fine. So you can even have this completely secure. Of course, if anybody knows the URL to your script, you don't even need to bother. But I'm just mentioning in case you would like to be completely safe. Also, if your API token has been discovered somehow by somebody, or if you have doubts, you should recreate a new one from the interface and you adapt it. If you have an error message like forbidden, it just means that there is something wrong with your setup, that you put a wrong API. So now, how much time left, just to be sure? 15. Okay, but we've done a lot already, so that's good. Yeah, 15 minutes. Yeah. Then, with all the discussion with Alexandre to make this automatic from the Google Sheet, day after day, week after week, month after month, we got new ideas like, okay, if we have the script, why not allowing this Google Sheet to send the articles, not only to one website, but to send it to any website. Like in my Google Sheet, I have a column at the very start. Yeah, the order of the columns does not matter, whatever the order. So that's handy. If for end users, it makes more sense to have price next to ticketing, of course, okay, they can move it anywhere. You don't have to put title first or whatever. The order does not matter. But there is a column called here, token index. Maybe I should zoom a bit. Does it zoom? Looks like, oh yeah, it zooms a bit. There's a column called token index. that was introduced so that you could say, okay, this goes to the festival website, and this goes to G-Day, Joomla Days NL, right? So that each row could be sent to a different website if you like, to make it even more universal. Or maybe if you have a development website and a production website, okay, whatever your use case. Then we wanted to also add any type of custom fields. And for a text custom field, like I showed temperature, that was quite obvious. But then came the question, like you have also fields, sometimes native fields like intro image and full image. In the database, if you look, it's not just a link, it's a JSON thing, right? So with curly brackets and plenty of substrings inside. So it's a bit tricky. We have the same for URL ABC, and we have the same for custom fields which have multiple selection, like checkbox or list, or custom fields of type subform, who are even more tricky because it's one level more. With images. Yeah, with anything. Yeah, exactly. So then I said, okay, let's try to allow that, because in Google Sheet, just to put some text is easy, but then can we also allow the script to manage these JSON files? So this was done. You have nothing to do. I'm just mentioning it to in the sheet you put in an image URL. Okay, you can play with a formula. I'll show it later. It's on the slides anyways. So if you create a Google Sheet, I'll just go quickly through that, because I've put, if you go in the presentation, if you want to go quickly and not to have to create a Google Sheet from scratch and think, oh yes, I have to put title, I think I have to put, just take the example in bold. There is only one link there in this part of the presentation where I've put the link in bold. Just copy that link, open it, and you will have the example, the basic example that I reuse every time, that you can customize after, but at least you have a starting point. And I think that here I have some custom field, like you said. Yeah. Okay. So the script can manage the JSON, but it should be a JSON in the Google Sheets. So when I have this, I make a formula in Google Sheets. So my end users would just type, let's say, the name of the image, marc.png, okay. And then next to that, I make a formula with, because for an image, it's always the same structure, like intro, curly bracket, intro image, semicolon, blah, blah, blah. And so I just make a replacement of a little formula in Google Sheet to say, okay, I take the name of the image and I put it correctly in the standard. I make a little formula. And I went further because I create my own formula when I have multiple values, for example, because for an image, I know what the structure will be. It's always the same. I just have to replace the name of the image. So I just put a dummy string and I say, replace dummy by the value of this column, and that's it. But when I have something completely free that people can type anything in a custom field of type list or whatever, yeah, then I cannot make this little formula with a replacement. Then I've created my own thing. I show it later. So start from this and copy it in your own file. And okay, I apologize because I cannot turn Google Sheet into English. So the screenshot is in French, but it's quite obvious, right? When you go to File, Share, you can even choose the sheet. So it's very handy. I have plenty of projects where, okay, there is a sheet for films and another one for movie makers. And so I don't need to have one Google Sheet for each script that I will use. I can have everything in the same Google Sheets, and I just say, yeah, I can select the tab. Here I've chosen the tab concerts. Okay. And then next to that, you just say that you want a CSV. And when you click on publish, it gives you the link, the direct link to this CSV, right? So that's the basic. Then, where is the script? I give the link here. Let me open this. Oh yeah, there is, okay. This is the script that we will use. But if you go one level above, right? Alexandre has made plenty of examples of scripts, because there is also one script to import from Airtable and one script to import from within Joomla using the Joomla framework. And so there are plenty of examples. But here, the example that on which we made the most of things is the example not using a Joomla framework, but using raw PHP to be totally independent of Joomla if you need. And then even there, you have plenty of scripts, of different scripts. So see for yourself. But the one we want to get, okay, is mentioned in the presentation, but is also the one which was updated the most recently, like 1 hour ago. So this is the script. You just copy paste it. Where's the button to copy? You can click on row. Okay, you copy paste it, whatever. I reminded there was a button just to copy the code. So this is it. And let me go through the presentation to see what I'm supposed to tell. Okay, I just go to through the script and explain quickly what we need to customize, but not many things. So all you have to do, create your Google Sheet, you publish it as CSV, good. You go to this GitHub page, you copy the script, you put it on a PHP file somewhere, anywhere in the world, and then we will just customize a few things. First, the first parameter that we will customize is the CSV URL, which means the URL to the CSV, right? So you just replace this by your own link, fine. Base URL, what is this? I was saying that the script was smart enough to be able to send each row to a different website. So this is why in this example we have 3 rows, because it sends to 3 different websites. So in my Google Sheet here, to make it simple, the token index column, I've written FM3 because it's Festival Music 3. And coming back here. So in my case, I only need 1 line because I'm importing only to 1 website. So I delete the extra 2 lines. And what I would do is say, okay, FM3, which is the word I chose, which website is it? And then I put the URL of the website to which I want to send it. So easy customization without trailing slash, as you can see. But I say it explicitly because otherwise. Then the token. Well, the token is the same story. Here I only have 1 website, so I can delete the token 2 and 3. And I would put here FM3 because in my case I've chosen FM3. And here I would just paste my token that I keep secret. I remind you. Right, good. Base path, you don't change that, but it's a parameter because maybe next month a new Joomla version comes and it becomes V2 instead of V1. So then we see clearly what it is. A timeout. Okay, you can play with if you import many lines, you can play with a timeout just to be able to import more at a time. It depends on your server. Then the custom field keys. Here it's empty because by default we don't import any custom fields. By the way, I was saying sooner that you can put in the Google Sheet the columns in any order. It works. But you can also add extra columns. If if the extra columns are not mentioned in the script does work, right? It will just ignore those columns. So feel free to have extra columns if you need. But typically, when I first run a script, I start in a simple way. I just import the basic stuff like the title and everything. I only add the custom field when I've tested the basic creation of articles with the title and title language and intro text, whatever. Because if you have any mistake in your values for the custom fields, maybe it will not import. The script does work, but you have an issue with what you typed in the custom field. So you want to do things step by step. My advice, just simply import without putting any custom field. And afterwards, you just add them. And how do you add them? There's an example there, right? You just put their names with quotes, right?
The columns you don't specify in there are skipped?
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes there is an issue with because okay, and I just two ways. Either if I had taken into account a custom field, at some point I say, oh, stop, I don't want to import it, synchronize it anymore. Two ways to disable it. Either I edit my script, I remove it from the list. Either, even simpler than editing this, in the Google Sheet, I just rename the column and say pause, okay, like temperature on hold or whatever, okay? And it's the same, it will be ignored then. But it's easy to remember because sometimes I did it in the PHP file and then 1 week later I had forgotten that I had done it. So then you think, oh, why doesn't it work? And, oh yeah, I had removed it from the script. So it's easier to change, I find, to change the title in the Google Sheet in such a case. There is also Alexandre was also very keen on performance. But I also wanted to display some feedback. So here, very recently, he added a parameter silent. So if you put it on silent, you run the script, you get a blank page, which is what you want, actually. You don't need any feedback normally if everything is good. But because it's handy just to be reassured that everything was fine, or maybe you see, oh, there were 10 lines and it has only imported 3. There is an issue with, and then at least you know that you should investigate. So 0 is hide everything. 1, oh, I should go to the presentation because I have a screenshot for that. Where am I? Presentation is too long. Okay, yeah. So if I set the secret to 0, well, it will give a blank page. If I set it to 1, it is what you saw when I imported first. It's very clear. 1 line for each line, putting the title, that's it. But maybe you want to go further, then you set it on 2, because then it displays all the fields, all the custom fields and everything. So maybe then you can say, that's why I see there is something strange during the importation. Then another very recent improvement of the script is that when it started, it was just for fun, just to import 50 or 200 articles. But then starting to realize, hey, but that's really handy. I can use it for more. Then now I have use cases for thousands of articles. But when you run the script, it's not that fast, right? It can run, well, it depends if you have 40, maybe I wait 30 seconds, that's fine. But if I have thousands, and every time I change something, I change 1 row in the Google Sheet. Do I really need to resynchronize 2,600 articles? No. So we added this, and that's so that you can specify the line you want to import or synchronize and say, okay, everything is fine for the first 2,000 lines. I only need to manage the... but you can do like for a printer, because I was only asking Alexandre for something simple to say, okay, only these lines. And he came with something like a printer where you can say, I want page 7, and then page 15 to 20, and then page 200 to 201, and whatever. So you can even do funny stuff with that. And the only thing that I can also mention, where is it in the script? Yeah. The custom fields by default is empty, so you just fill them if you need them. And by default, it manages already all the basic fields of Joomla, like the category ID, the intro text, the language, the state, published or unpublished. So what you put then there in your Google Sheet is what you have in the tables of Joomla, meaning 0 for unpublished, 1 for published. So, okay, if you have no clue of what you should put, just go in the database and you see that, oh, all languages is just a star. Okay, then you put a star. But for example, if you said, hey, Marc, that's nice, but in the start publishing date or end publishing date, that's not a custom field, but it's not mentioned here in the defaults field of Joomla. Well, no worry. The name in the database, the name for start publishing date is publish up or publish underscore up. I'm not sure. Okay, you can also edit this and add a new line. Say, I want also to import a column called publish up, publish down, and featured up, featured down, whatever. So you can also add those fields.
And if you don't add those fields in the spreadsheet, they just take today and the moment of synchronization as the start date?
The Joomla way. So like if I edit an article from the interface, I change something or I don't change anything, but I click on save, the modification date will be now, right? So the same logic. It's just that it happens through a script, but you have always to think it as if I was in the interface. If I type something wrong, if I forget to put a title, it will get rejected. And also what you don't see here, but what the script does, speaking about errors, if you create in the backend, imagine, so not speaking about the script, if you're in the backend, you have created an article called Marc. Another day, in the same category, you create another article with the alias Marc. You cannot save when you're in the interface because the alias is already taken by some other article in the same category. I think if it's another category,
I guess it puts a number behind it to save and that's the same.
Yeah, so although that's when you say I want to duplicate an article, Joomla is smart enough. But if you create a fresh article, and so here the script is very smart because it runs twice. Meaning that if you're creating articles, it will go through all your Google Sheet, and maybe for some reason it could not create some articles because the alias is already taken somehow, even without the script or maybe some other row of the script. But so it runs the first time through it, it creates all it can, and then it goes a second time with all the rows where there was an error, and it tries by adding a random number behind the alias, so that at least it's created. Afterwards, you can manage in the backend and see, oh, yeah, I see. And of course, in this second round, if there are still mistakes, like there is a custom field of type URL, and we've forgotten to type HTTPS, so it cannot be, yeah, okay. Then of course it cannot be created. Then you have to check what you have. But for the rest, I also give some troubleshooting of things that I've discovered, like at some point the script was not working anymore. And it was, I know it's working, it works on all the websites, and it was working the day before. And actually, in their text, they had written in Loasis with this, but it's a little bit curly. I don't know, it's on Mac, it must be a Mac thing, I don't know. But instead of straight quote. And for example, this would make the script crash because it's considered as, I don't know, a double quote, whatever. And so it would crash the thing. So I also put these examples of.
We have to round up.
Yeah, okay.
The session is starting.
So, other ways of importing. Roland, hier aanwezig, heeft een uitstekende extensie ROCSVI. Dus this extension by Roland can also do crazy stuff. And okay, also export, also import from XML. Okay, here my script is just specific, importing from a Google Sheet. It was to play with the API, but Roland's extension is great. Also Joom Grabber, also CFI for little needs. And thank you, all of you, and Peter Martin, because he triggers that, and Alexandre for all the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
I would really like to thank you for your contribution to the
Thank you.
this year.